Today, I am in Brooklyn, New York, in the heart of Williamsburg to showcase you guys a new store that had opened up. The man had created a fashion line that is related to gaming, as well as he is an indie game developer himself. And he wants to create a one-of-a-kind experience for all of you guys to come and enjoy. For example, guys, this is Play Vitamin. Let's go take a look at it. What would you categorize your store as? Please tell us about Play Vitamin.
Yeah, I'd categorize as just a brand, right? I think, if you walk around Williamsburg or, if you think about subculture brands, you'll see brands that do a really good job of representing their subculture in a very aspirational and elevated way. We do want to try to elevate gaming culture to be kind of on the same playing field as some of those other subculture brands, like a Supreme, like a Saturdays does with surfing, like Pilgrim does with surfing, like Chain does with motorcycles. So I would put our brand in that category from a retail experience. But at our core, we are a gaming brand. We do make our own video games. So that's really where we pull from for a lot of our inspiration for everything else we do for the brand.
What's interesting to me is that you touch a bunch of different genres within the gaming culture itself. And also I do see some imported machines in here. Yeah. Like for example, your vending machine. I mean, you mind talking a little bit about that?
Yeah, it just comes down to wanting to build a new retail experience, right? Wanting our customers to have a new experience, interact with something they may or may have not known that they like, whether it's through video games, through our games, whether it's through our vending machine, which is, somewhat of a unique experience for the US customer since it's an imported vending machine from Japan. Even just having some of the drinks being hot and some being cold, seeing the smiles and surprise on people's face when they get their hot coffee out of the vending machine. That was an experience that we never grew up with here in America. But it's just little things like that that elevate the overall experience that you have in this store.
Speaking of consumables, this store also provides a coffee bar.
Yeah.
What was the inspiration behind it?
Well, simply enough, it's just because I like coffee and video games together. But, as I was talking about some of those other brands that do such a good job of elevating their subculture, again, some of the subcultures that can seem very intimidating, I think by offering things like a nice cup of coffee can be a really good way to get people not only in the store on a more frequent basis than just buying a t-shirt once a season or something like that, but just elevate the overall experience and make it seem more approachable.
And on your menu, I mean, your drinks are relatively very affordable compared to, retailers and things like that in the big game.
Yeah.
I see behind the counter that you have your own jars.
Yeah.
How you're truly branding yourself.
Yeah.
In different genres, right? So like, for example, your coffee beans, like where do they come from?
Yeah, so my coffee beans, they actually come from a friend of mine who has a coffee shop off the Lorimer stop. So one stop away on the L train called Olas, O-L-A-S. And I've been working with him for many years in my professional career. I've been using his beans in photo studios that I've run. And I've always really enjoyed his coffee. So, over the years, I told him, I said, hey, one day I'm going to have my own store and you're going to have to help me with my coffee program. And sure enough, I ended up getting my own store going or opening my own store. And now he roasts coffee beans for my store. And so we do sell them at retail. So we do sell the whole beans that you can take home and grind yourself, or obviously we'll grind them here and make you a cup of coffee as well.
On the menu for the drink bar, it says your specialty drink.
Yeah.
Do you mind showcasing that drink?
Yeah, for sure. It's nothing super special, but we'll definitely pour you one. So basically this drink was just thinking of ways to, use some of the stuff that we have here. So, as a business, you have to order a certain amount of minimum order quantity, right? So even for our drinks in our vending machine, it's not necessarily like I'm going down the street and buying a 12-pack at retail. I do have to try to come up with margin somewhere. So, I'm buying a certain minimum order quantity to fill the vending machine, but then, to try to continue to use more of those items, I was trying to think of ways to do that. So this seasonal drink is something that we'll try to change as the season changes. I think today's the first day of fall, so I should probably come up with a new drink. So this one is left over from summer, but we're basically taking two of our drinks that we have in our vending machine and mixing them together is the main ingredients for this drink.
What inspired your store to be video game related out of everything?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's just something that I've always loved. I've always used video games to connect with other people. I have two older brothers. They're a lot older than me. So being competitive with them and like athletics and sports wasn't really realistic, but the way I felt we always bonded the best was over video games. So from a very young age, playing video games with my brothers has always been something super special to me. And it was a way that I continued to make friends in my life, and something that's always just been there for me, even if it's just to unwind after work or, spend hundreds of hours on the new Zelda. There's varying levels of my participation in gaming and now making games. There's the part of it from my childhood that I pull on. And then me being professionally in the fashion industry and always making my own clothing for a long time, I wanted to combine those into one brand. And so that's what Vitamin is. It's a culmination of a lot of things over the years. So I want Vitamin to be that brand that can represent gaming culture.
Do you mind explaining this game for me, please?
Yeah, of course. So Dragon Puncher is our second game. And it's available on Steam now. And this game's kind of funny. It came about because me and my brother have always loved Street Fighter. And to be honest, I was never very good, but I always loved playing Street Fighter. And one of the moves that I always struggled to master was the Dragon Punch. Of course I could do it occasionally, but I could never do it right when I needed to in the heat of a match. So we kind of just started out making this game as a training tool to learn that move. We originally just made one level, and it was to practice the Dragon Punch. And then as we started to work on more games and develop the brand, we were like, what if we made this in just a little game? So we expanded, made a few more levels, made a few more obstacles. So now it's a little, 15, 20-minute game where you can use the Dragon Punch to make your way through the levels. I think if I were to try to, help people understand what is it like playing this game, I would say it's probably a combination of Kung Fu and Legend of Kage, if you're familiar with those games from the NES era, with the Dragon Punch mixed in as your main mechanic.
What's the concept behind this game?
Yeah, so again, if I'm relating it back to video games that people probably know and love that they grew up with, one of the things that I've always enjoyed in video games and shmup specifically is the fast play and the dodging aspect. So like the run and dodge aspect. So this game was based off of the run and dodge aspect from from Tecmo Bowl. So it was another game that I really liked growing up. It was a football game called Super Tecmo Bowl. I'm sure most people are familiar with that. But a lot of this game is just trying to beat it as fast as you can. So going from left to right, making it through the obstacles, dodging enemies. The less you kill, the higher your points are. The more you kill, the lower your points are. So there's two different ways to play. But it's combining that dodging mechanic of Super Tecmo Bowl with kind of like, a little bit of riffing off of the graphical style from Zelda, the original Zelda. And this game takes place in India.
And what's the name of this game?
Grama Seva.
Grama Seva.
Yeah.
That's an interesting name.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah, it loosely translates. There's a rough translation from there. That's like village hero or villager. But we wanted to try to make games that are not just your typical games that you're seeing out there right now. So these are games that are truly coming from a player's perspective, trying to pull off of that old school arcade die and retry, easy to pick up, hard to master. That a lot of the games we love to this day kind of pull off of those main things.
Do you plan on commercializing these games? Are you making physical copies? I know there's a lot of indie game developers that make their own Game Boy cartridges, things like that.
Yeah.
These games to me seem like they're more NES heavy, right?
Yeah.
Based off of the style and the graphics.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah, we would love to. I think that's the physical part of it is really big for us. That's why we make the arcade cabinets. That's why we have the store. I really want the brand to pull from, the in-person video game culture from, the early 90s. I think that was a golden era of gaming and getting in person. And, there's a lot of ways to play games now. You can sit at home, you can get online, which is all great. And we want to celebrate that too. But I think for the brand, we really want to pull from, like you were talking about, the physical part. So whether that's physically touching the arcade or physically making a game cartridge, that's something we'd love to get into. So hopefully, as we continue to scale as a business, we can get into that world of creating physical cartridges.
And I like that you created attraction for people to play, right? Yeah. It's not more so of you trying to sell a product, right? It's about overall creating an experience for your customers.
Exactly.
So like you have an analog pocket, that's an analog pocket right there. And then you have the customized PlayStation X, which is super sick with the little screens, and you do have TV screens hooked up everywhere. So it's like, oh, cool, I love Sega. Let me go to this side of the room. Let me go to, oh, I love that you have Game Boy cartridges. So you could play different games, whatever you want. It's such a nice feature to have an interactive store.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think if you're going to have a store, you got to offer some kind of new experience, right? It's not necessarily like video gaming is a new experience, but I think in this setting it is, right? And in this, in this neighborhood and introducing it to a new crowd in a new way, in a new exciting way. So like we were talking earlier, I'm hoping that the brand can be a gateway for people that may have never thought about gaming as part of their life, and introduce new people to a culture that, you and I already know and love. And then also for the core that's already there, it's maybe hopefully a new way to re-experience something that they already know and love.
While walking around, I noticed that every single thing in the store, even the RCA TVs are for sale, right?
Yeah.
Those are your display pieces.
Yeah.
Why would you even mark a display piece in your store?
Yeah. Well, I think it goes back to that experience, right? I think a lot of the retail stores that I've been to all over the world have cool displays. And a lot of the times, some of the things that I want to buy in the store are never for sale. So I wanted to, when I finally got the opportunity to open my own store, I wanted to make sure that everything in the store is for sale, whether it's a display piece or our own products. Because if a customer is connecting with something and ultimately it's making them happy and they want to bring a piece of, the brand home or video game culture or nostalgia home with them, I want them to be able to do that.
So out in the front, you have the K-Chuck with an arcade machine, the Capcom Mini Q. Hooked up to the back of it. Like, what's going on there?
Yeah. So I was in Japan last year for a while. I was between jobs and I had some time to travel. And my brother actually lives over there right now. So I went and stayed with him for a couple of months. And while I was there, I wanted to do a couple things that I wasn't able to do the previous times I had gone to Japan on shorter trips. So one of those things is go to and buy something from a car auction. In addition to video games, I also love car culture. And the car scene in Japan is, just as good as anywhere, if not the best. So I went to a car auction and bought the truck. When I bought it, it was a basic white work truck. And I imported it over to the US. And around that same time, I made a friend in Tokyo who used to run 8 arcades in and around Tokyo. And so he still had all his old inventory. He had actually sold off his business during COVID to a larger arcade company, but they let him keep a lot of his old arcade machines. So he still had a lot of the stuff from the 90s and early 2000s. So we went to his warehouse and I got to, I stayed there as long as I could. He was ready to leave before I was. I was playing with all his old arcades. And one of the things he had, and one of the things that I've always wanted, was a Capcom Minicube. So when I knew that I was going to get the arcade machine, I already had the truck being sent over. I wanted to do something fun for the brand that I knew one day that I was going to open. I didn't know I was going to get a retail store right when I got back, but ended up working out that way. So I, got the retail store keys. Both the arcade machine and the truck were already on their way over. So once I got the store, I was like, I want to do a fun activation for the store. So I pulled the design elements from the Capcom Minicube onto the truck. So you'll see the primary teal, the secondary white, And then you'll see like the Capcom yellow and blue mixed throughout in certain areas as well.
So now discussing our last topic of fashion,
Yeah.
right? You created a fashion line that is
Yeah.
so simplistic,
Yeah.
but also it's in favor of competing with the designer brands,
Yeah.
right? So when it comes to this kind of stuff, how do you get the chance to say, hey, I'm going to manufacture this kind of shirt or this kind of sweater with this certain material?
Yeah.
Like what comes to your mind when it comes to like, okay, this person will like this product?
Yeah. I kind of just started out with making stuff that I wanted. Again, it's about like, you know, the easiest way for me to get going is just to start with something that I enjoy or I have fun doing. So a lot of the designs start out with something that I enjoy. And then I always think about, you know, does that translate to the customer as well? Is this something that someone could, you know, feel comfortable wearing? Is it representing the brand in an elevated way? Is it representing gaming culture in an elevated way? So there are a lot of elements that go into creating a new design. And it's not always the same. My design process isn't always the same every time. I get inspiration all over, a lot of inspiration from just being in New York, but also when I travel, when I meet new people. I'm constantly jotting down t-shirt ideas that pop into my head random times, whether that's I'm in a meeting at work or I'm on a flight going abroad, or I'm just sitting here in the store. I never know when something is gonna spark something that I want to make. So I'm constantly jotting it down. I don't really have one well-defined process, and there's such a backlog of things that I want to make. So, you know, I'm hoping the store can be that opportunity for me to get more designs made and more designs in front of people.
I love the variety that you have in clothing, from sweaters to button-down shirts, t-shirts,
Yeah.
pants.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a nice
Yeah.
selection for, you know, someone to grab and, you know,
Yeah.
feel comfortable in that kind of attire.
Yeah, and we want to continue to expand on those categories, right? There's plenty of other categories and accessories that you know, a lot of the more established brands have that we don't yet. But definitely something we want to get into.
So me and Anthony just bought some t-shirts, pretty fire, $35 plus the branded bag. Come on, this man is putting in that effort. Bro, where can they find you when they're looking for the store?
Yeah, come see us in Williamsburg at 168 North 1st Street between Bedford and Driggs. And then check us out online at playvitamin.com and at playvitamin on Instagram.
And guys, stop by. This is a hidden gem. I'm sure you guys would love the aesthetic, love the vibes in the store, and I'm sure there's something for you to find. As his business keeps growing, I'm sure that there's going to be plenty of things for newer people to realize that they might enjoy when this isn't even in their environment, their culture. So yeah, hopefully you all enjoyed today's video. Plug Nostalgia with Doshi. I'll catch you all later.